we have quite a few books to catch up on. I am excited for today's video to share with you the latest books I've read, really for the last few months. And let me tell you, the theme was dark romance, 100%, and supernatural. I am somewhat dressed for our theme today. And I thought it would be appropriate for the books I was going to share with you. So if you're interested in some dark romance, supernatural books, I have some to share that I've read. I'll give my non-spoiler thoughts and feelings, but everyone has just so much different mindsets, or even just, what's going on in your life can be impacting how you might enjoy a book, which I think was the case for me for maybe a couple of them. So, take it with a grain of salt. I have all my jewelry on. Some of this is pretty much all of this is local. This is from Hey Happiness, these two. This is actually from Venice, Italy, where they hand make glass jewelry. There's a lot of shops that make glass jewelry, and I got this a decade ago, and I'm so glad I can still wear it. And then the rest of my rings are from local markets that I've gone to, so unfortunately I don't even remember some of them, unfortunately. And then other people are just not, online. But anyway, that's my jewelry. Some of this is Amazon, and this necklace is actually from Naked Fashion. It's a little heart pendant, and it wraps around. It's giving Western vampire princess, and that's the vibes for today, okay? So, get comfortable, channel your inner Bella and Edward Cullen, okay? Just a little bit. That's a little more YA, but we're getting there. We're gonna talk vampires, we're gonna talk fantasy, a little bit of dragons, and I might wrap up with what I'm currently reading. We'll see how far we get, but lots of fun stuff, so we can hop right into it. Okay, so one of the first books I want to share is Fall of Ruin and Wrath, and I will say a lot of the books I read in the last few months have been on Kindle. I do have a couple physical books lying around, but this will be a mix of Kindle and audiobook, so it kind of touches on all different mediums. But I got this on Kindle, and it's Fall of Ruin and Wrath by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I don't know how to pronounce it, but... And this is a story about essentially a woman who, I kind of imagine her living in a similar world as ACOTAR, where it's medieval fantasy, but it's weird because there's some inventions that are modern. That's why I think it's ACOTAR, is because there's some modern influences, and as you read the book it kind of explains all of the history. So anyway, it's fantasy. It's, I would call, along the veins of dark romance. There's definitely dark themes, so just be aware of that. Anyways, I forgot her name. I forgot everyone's names, but it's okay. Main girl, she's living it up. She's, You know, she came from a background where it was rough. Essentially, she was previously like a slave and got rescued, but she's still kind of like a working class person. She's working hard. She has like a special gift where she has intuition, so it's kind of like she can tell the future. Anyways, there are basically classes of like what I would call the like magical fairy people, and then like the more base humans, and then in between are like people who are like half breed essentially. I don't think they're fairies. I'm just using that as an example of like the type of beings that are described as like higher class. Anyways, the girl ends up falling for a high class, highborn man, and he is kind of nasty, you know, nasty in the like smut territory. This is a smut book for sure. I will say that was probably the best thing about this book. There was a lot of other issues I had with the story. So like as she's kind of like falling for this guy, and there's sort of like there's other things to the plot. There's, you know, powers that be, Game of Thrones type of stuff, people fighting for power. And she's kind of like caught up in the middle of it. I would say like one of the biggest issues I had with this book was simply just it kind of took forever to get to the point. Like I feel like there was a lot of exposition, there was a lot of description of her like walking around and changing clothes, and I was like, I need something. I feel like there was only like 3 good scenes, but maybe it was the mindset I had at the time. I don't know. I was just like, nothing was really happening for me, and I was kind of like, okay, every now and then it would get a little bit more interesting, and then towards the end it was interesting. I gave this book a 2 because everything else was just so underwhelming to me, and the only good thing about those 2 stars was the smut. But this is the first book in like a series, so maybe the next book will, I don't know, be interesting. I also wrote some notes about this because like I have a book club, and this is one of our book club books. One of the issues I had was they used a lot of modern language, which they do explain, but I was so tripped up by like the modern phrases mixed with like fantasy stuff. I don't know, I was just like off put by it. I did think about The Witcher a lot when I was reading this. Like that was the kind of like the vibes I was getting. Oh my gosh, the main character, she was just kind of annoying sometimes. She just like wouldn't own her choices. She kind of constantly complained that like she didn't really know, or she didn't really have a choice. But I was like, I feel like you have a choice. Like you have the power of intuition, not the like Ella enchanted curse, you know, where you can't disobey or something. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, I don't know why she thinks she can't say what she wants to say. I don't know. Yeah, I kind of feel like she was just a pushover a lot of the time. I know I'm sounding really mean towards her, but that was what I was feeling. I liked the chemistry a lot. I just kind of felt like that wasn't enough for me to make this book better. So yeah, it just felt like there was a lot that the potential was there, and it just fell flat for me. So I gave this a 2, unfortunately. So this next series is actually like part of the theming of my outfit, but basically it's a vampire like Brotherhood series, and each of the brothers, they're not real brothers, but they're a brotherhood of vampire warriors, and they live in our modern age. These books were written back in the early 2000s. They're the Black Dagger Brotherhood books by J.R. Ward. These books remind me of like the early 2000s, like supernatural movies, Van Helsing, The Matrix, those types of vibes. Those are like the movies that kind of run through my head when I think about these books, and just the fact that they were written in the same time period. So I first listened to the first book on audiobook, and it was actually narrated by like a man, and at first I was a little like, oh no, I don't know how this is gonna go, because it does have, you know, it's like a smut series, but I would say there's a lot to the plot, thankfully, for these books that do keep you interested. Like, they are full of like character arcs and plot, and it's like more to it, but it is heavily smut. So often I'm like more comfortable listening to a woman narrator, depending on the man. You know, sometimes it's a woman and a man, or whatever. Depends on the story. But Dark Lover was like a man who sounded like he was middle-aged, and I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. But then I imagined he was gay, and it made it so much better. I kid you not, I was like, 100% believable. I absolutely can stand behind this. And so that was how I got through the audiobook of the first book. I loved the first book. It's called Dark Lover, and it's about the main, well, not the main, but yeah, technically the main vampire of the Brotherhood. His name is Wrath. So they all have these like names, like Vicious, Fury, Wrath, Rage, Sadist, like very fun names. Anyways, so basically it's a band of brothers, vampires, who are warriors of their kind. So vampires live amongst the modern world, and they're warriors because they have to fight this group that is out to eliminate them, called Lessers. They're basically like the minions of the guy downstairs, if you will. And so vampires live amongst everyone. They can't go out during the day, so that's like a trope that, you know, we hear about. But they don't have to drink the blood of humans to live. They just drink blood from other vampires, and it's very like intimate, and it's usually like a partner. So there's a couple things that are just different and unique, and they also have magical powers as well, or at least the higher born vampires. So it's like this whole society, whole species, right? The second book, Lover Eternal, was about another brother, and I didn't love that one as much. It was still like a good, I would say the ending led to the third book, which is actually my favorite. This was a 5. This was a 5-star. Okay. It's Lover Awakened. I have like the OG covers, and this is based on, technically every brother has their own book, but all the stories do connect, so reading chronologically does make sense. I wouldn't recommend necessarily picking up this book and not reading the first two. I would just read the first two, get through those. They're fun, they're enjoyable. But this one, so good. This was like one of my favorite books I've read this year. It's called Lover Awakened, and it's about the character Zadist. He's one of the brothers, and his character reminds me of Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, okay? Like the vibe, and just like angsty boy. And he's just like broody and like kind of quiet most of the time, but like has a little bit of a, like, he'll kind of blow up if you tick him off kind of thing. He doesn't get like aggressively angry for no reason, though. That's a big point. He's very well written for someone who is portrayed as like angry and mistakenly cruel. I think that's like a big thing, is like he seems like he might be vicious, even though there's another character named Vicious. I'm using vicious as an adjective. Even though he seems or appears cruel to others, like as you read the story, you come to understand that's not really what it's about. And of course, we all kind of are aware of that. But oh my goodness, Zadist is my favorite vampire, hands down. His story technically starts at the end of the second book, and that was where I was like, oh man, like things were taking off. The stakes were rising, literally. The stakes are just so intense, but like not unbearable. Throughout the entire story, you just feel like you're clutching your pearls. Like Sadist as a character, he's like my favorite from this book. You kind of get his backstory, and you get his relational, like you just get more than just, you know, plot and smut in this book. Like you also get his story, and he is just such a powerful character, and his transformation is just really powerful, and you can really feel it, and that was like super impactful. And then his relationship with the main girl, the main girl in this book, but she's not like a main girl. Her name is Bella. Hilarious. Basically, Bella is in a predicament where Sadist or Z has to go and try and find her and help her. The tension between them is just so palpable, and like it's not necessarily enemies to lovers as much as it's like he feels he can't be with her, but he can't resist being with her. Almost like forbidden love, but it's so good. It's so good. But like he literally is so cool, calm, and collected with everything else going on, all other issues going on. But when it comes to her being in harm's way, he goes bat crazy. And I ate it up. He was like, "Don't you dare." And I was like, okay, don't do it. Don't touch this girl. And you could feel it. So Sadist's book was my favorite. I gave it a 5. Absolutely. I think I gave book number 2 a 3. It's about rage, which is, again, it's a good book, but it's not like the only like best part about that book was that it led up to this book. So that's why I would say go ahead and read the second book. This was the third book, Lover Awakened. I read the fourth book, which is Lover Revealed, and that's about another character, which I don't really want to give away because I feel like by this point it's giving away spoilers. And then I just finished the fifth book, Lover Unbound, which is about the character Vicious. And I gave both of those. So I gave the fourth book a 4. That was really transformational. I feel like that was really good. There's some really great parts in that one. Again, not gonna give it away because it might be too spoilery. I will say the vampires have like bonds with their mates, so they get very protective. It's all fun. It's really fun stuff. I had a good time. And then we have Lover Unbound Vicious story. Literally, it was a 4 up until the end. Basically, the way things turned out at the end, I was like, this is not, like, it wasn't a bad ending. It just was like, I didn't really feel like, I felt like this was a side quest, and I don't know, it just didn't really land for me. I feel like it was not as powerful, and I guess every book after the Sadist book has been a little less appealing. Like, it just isn't living up to that book. So I'm hoping that the next few books, because there's a lot of books in the series, have more of the Z's storyline feel. I just really didn't connect that much with the last 2 books. So all 5 books overall, love the series, highly recommend if you love vampires, if you love early 2000s leather, grunge, angstiness, life or death, and smut. It's good. It's good stuff. So, highly recommend. All of those were on my Kindle. So, in between those books, I did go ahead and listen to another book called Tristan's Lyceum Wolves, and this was an audiobook, which was a mistake. Okay, that was the mistake. So this is what the book looks like, the cover. It's technically like book 2 or 3 in a series, but hopping into this wasn't confusing at all. Like, there might have been a character or 2 that you're like, oh, I'm supposed to know them from another book, but it wasn't like that impactful. So initially jumping into this, I was excited. It's basically about Tristan, who is a werewolf, or like, yeah, like a alpha of his pack werewolf. And there are like different packs across the country, and after kind of like his nightclub is set on fire nefariously, his like snake boa constrictor that used to be in his nightclub was stolen, and he finds out it was actually rescued by this woman, this vet, who noticed the snake and rescued it. I know, it's weird. They all live in like Louisiana, so people have snakes apparently. Anyways, so it was very promising. The girl is actually secretly also a werewolf, but she's in hiding, and so she can't reveal her identity to him. So if you love like having to hide your identity and they don't know that who they are, but it could make things totally different, you'll like this. Don't listen to the audiobook. Please just read it, because the audiobook is narrated by a man, or at least the version I had on Spotify is narrated by a man. And hey, I was like, it's gonna be fine. We're gonna be. He had a nice accent. He was able to do different accents for people. We loved it. Every time he voiced the girl, oh my god, the voice was just becoming irritating to me. Like, she just sounded irritating, like whiny. I don't know what it was. This is why you should just read it and not listen to it. But she sounded nasally and whiny, and I know he's like trying to achieve a high-pitched voice, but I just was like, it kind of ruined it, and it just made it not a great experience. I gave it a 2. There were some other issues I had with the book, but like nothing more memorable than that being the audiobook. And I feel like if I had just read it, I think I would have had a way better experience, maybe a 3 or 4 for this book. So it's highly rated otherwise, and I did love the like concept and like whatnot, but I do feel like also this book should have been a little bit longer. I feel like we didn't get enough time with characters, and I feel like people had really good backstories that we really could have seen developed in the present day within each other. I just felt like everything was going by so quickly, and I was like, I need like 200 more pages of like more, and then I felt like it would have been a well-rounded story. So I gave it a 2. I think the audiobook really knocked it down a star for me. So fair warning on that. So this book is Her Soul to Take by Harley the Rue, and it's part of a trilogy, but again, each book is about a different character in the same world. This book is definitely dark romance. It's literally about a girl who is like into supernatural. She's like in college, moving back to her hometown for like her last year of college, and she's staying at her childhood home, but her parents moved to Spain, and she's like there to make sure the house gets sold. I don't know. Anyways, so this town has literally been around for ages, and there are like key families that have been there for a few hundred years, and there's actually like somewhat of like an occult or a cult, not of like witches, but it's essentially a man who is harnessing the power of a demon. His name is Leon, and he is like bound by this cult leader, essentially. This is like the first few sentences of the book, and they're essentially sacrificing certain people in the town for a particular purpose, which you come to find out. So these murders are like happening, and people are like, what's going on? And this girl, forgot her name, I forgot everybody's name, it's fine. Girl goes to hometown, she's doing her last year of college, she's kind of, you know, quirky, she wears black, she has glasses, she's like a short bob. We love it. I loved her whole vibe. She's kind of like a grungy Velma character, if you will. And she goes snooping around because she has like a YouTube channel where she like posts about the supernatural. So in her discovery of trying to find supernatural stuff in her hometown, she stumbles upon Leon, who is a demon, and accidentally summons him. So then, of course, they spark some flames, and Leon he's sassy, he's got a mouth on him, and he just turns her world upside down. And I think he's funny. I like him as a character, and, you know, she's also there, and she's good. Yeah, I feel like I liked them both as characters, like, pretty well, and the smut was, you know, it was spicy. So, definitely toasty on the spice level. Definitely some darker themes, so if you're not really into, like, horror, maybe avoid it, although I would say I'm not really a horror person. And this was fine. I wasn't, like, too scared or anything. So I don't think this is dealing with any themes that are incredibly hard to stomach. So with that being said, always read the premise just in case. But I personally felt this was dark, but it was like a manageable dark. I haven't read anything darker than this. And I just don't really read intensely dark romance. And that's because I am emotional and internalize everything. And yeah, it just depends on how it's written as well. I think it just really depends on how the author positions it and puts you in it or separates you from it. But it's truly, like, this was not, I think the scariest thing about it was that it just had, like, a very dark theme, and there's, like, a demon and, like, a cult, and I would say this is a great Halloween book series. Like, if you're needing a Halloween spooky, but, like, it's kind of fun, this is a good one. This is good. It's giving Scream, but, like, in a fun way. So, yeah, Her Soul to Take. I did go ahead and give Her Soul to Take a 4 stars. It was a fun read. I was in a good mood. I was having a little bit of trouble reading up into this point because I felt like a lot of books were disappointing me. Or, you know, life happens. I got sick like a month ago, so I was just, like, having trouble just really connecting, you know, especially after reading a 5-star book. I felt like everything was not up to that level, you know, when you start comparing everything. So this was fun, though. It's something I hadn't ever really read before, and definitely, like, shows me what type of other books are out there. Is it often a genre I'm, like, a type of book that I'm gonna reach for? Probably not. I do love my vampires and werewolves, though. So, yeah. That has been pretty much all the, like, supernatural dark romance. But I do feel like this qualifies. And it's also because it's a recent book I read, and it is Fourth Wing. The oh so infamous Fourth Wing. This took me like 3 months to read because I was reading all those other books, so partially slowly reading this because I, again, was trying to finish other books that were, like, a part of my book club, and I wanted to make sure I was on time with those, so it just took a little longer to get through this. However, I will say, this was hard to get into because I didn't get to meet any dragons until 200 pages into the story. Girl, the dragons were the only amazing thing about this book. I gave this book a 3, okay? And I'm going to explain why. It was average for me. I think I have a really hard time with people in school. I don't know what it is. I think only Harry Potter and, like, the stories of Harry Potter are, like, bearable because they're going to school. But I feel like every time I've picked up a book recently where they're, like, training for a long time at a school or they're in school, I don't know. I just feel like I'm in school. I feel like I have homework, and I don't know what that is. I think that's a psychology thing. I think I have to deal with that. I don't know what it is, but I was so bored of them being in school the whole time. And there are action scenes, there are like battles. You do meet some dragons. Again, the only good part about this book. And also the smut towards the end was good. But that was it. And that just was not giving what I felt it should have given. And I think maybe I've just read a lot of fantasy over my lifetime, that this felt like, I kind of felt like I was reading stories I've already read, but like meshed together. Like Hunger Games and Divergent and like Harry Potter all made a baby. And them her being at school the whole time, I don't know, I can't deal with the school trope very well unless it's very well done, which I have had before. It just felt like nothing was really happening and the same scenes were happening over and over again, just in different ways. And then obviously at the end you have your plot twist, and I was like, okay, felt like it had been a little shorter given how much was going on. I feel like we waited so long for things to happen in any kind of interesting way. So I know I'm sounding like I'm really griping on this book, because I think I was struggling so hard to get through it, and I was like, oh, it's all these other books I'm reading. But actually it was this book that I was reading. I just wasn't latched onto it. And I will say, popular book bias is a thing. I went into this book series knowing that it was very popular. I had a high level understanding of the book, so I think I had a high expectation. And unfortunately, I think I just, like, it kind of fizzled out like a balloon, just kind of lost its air. And I think if I had picked this up maybe without any context about it, I probably would have enjoyed it. But it just wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't showing me anything different, or at the very least the characters were just kind of like, I don't know, they were not like gripping enough for me. Also, they have modern language in like a fantasy dystopian world, which is also again very off-putting, because, you know, like just modern phrases, and then the dragons are all like British or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like the dragons are like totally old medieval sounding, and then like the regular people are like, what's up? I'm not even getting. So that was kind of throwing me off the whole time and irritating me. I almost wish they had made up their own cuss words, because I was just like, I'm like so out of this world. I know so many people love this book, and I can understand why. Absolutely. I think it was a mix of things for me that I just didn't feel this was a amazing book. I probably won't continue the series. I feel like my 3 was like, it's a pretty good baseline like fantasy book / dystopian book. I'd probably even classify it more as a dystopian book, and I think that's why I didn't really resonate with it, because I lean more fantasy than dystopian. It was really hard for me to even love dystopian series back in the day, and so many people love those, so I'm not hating on that. Everybody has their preferences. This just was, they were in school the whole time, and I felt like I was in school. I felt like I had to go to every class with her. Like, we were going to every class, every period, recess, lunchtime. It was too much, and I was like, if I don't want to be in class with you, please. Yeah, I think I have a hard time with books that have a lot of training and like a lot of school scenes, because I'm like, nothing is happening. Smut was okay. Romance was okay. I don't know. I didn't feel it as much. I kind of felt like it was a little bit insta-lovey, and it was like very much like we hate each other, but there was like really no reason why they hated each other. There was like really no reason other than like their families, where they came from. But I just felt like that wasn't compelling enough to me, so the enemies to lover wasn't quite believable to me. I wasn't very sold on it. So anyway, otherwise, great. Too many characters that I had to try and remember, who all felt like they were saying the same things, had the same personality. It was hard to differentiate between them because none of them felt that unique. So I don't know, just ranting because I just didn't have a good experience, and I feel like robbed of that when everyone else probably loved this book and had such an amazing time. And I'm over here like, ooh, it wasn't like so great for me, and I probably will not continue the series. So that's unfortunate. However, if you loved it, I'm so happy for you. I feel like so many other things ruined it for me, and I'm so happy you love this series, and I hope that it becomes, you know, even better as they continue to come out with books. But yeah, that is my unfortunate. Like, it was objectively thumbs up average, but not thumbs up, if I had to really share my feelings about it. Okay. I was coming out of a little bit of a funk. All those books were very fun, but I feel like there was some disappointment along the way, and I've been ready to just read a few different books. I also feel like I've been in a reading slump, so I just needed to kind of shake things up a little, change things up. I still love my Black Dagger Brotherhood series. Like, I'm still gonna read those because it's part of my book club, but I was like, I really need some other books to help me kind of, I don't know, just like give me something new, you know? So, if you've been watching House of Dragon and have seen Game of Thrones, I think you're gonna love this book. At least I've been loving it so far. I'm only like a third of the way in, I feel, because I'm listening it to an audiobook. It's like 20 hours long on audiobook, and I have 16 hours left. So I don't know if you can see it, but it's called The Winter King, and it looks like your typical like fantasy romance, you know, like that book you might find like at a, I don't know, little stand in like a little convenience store like by the beach. But you guys, it's The Winter King by C.L. Wilson, and the reason I brought up Game of Thrones and House of Dragon is because if you like the North, like the Stark family, picture this, okay? The Stark family, rulers of the North, slash the guy has like the Witcher white hair. I know, it's a little confusing, but just stick with me. Like, that's how I imagine this world. The king, his name is Winter, and he essentially like ends up marrying, or has like, this is like in the premise of the book, where he is like an arranged marriage with a princess in the summer court. Everyone has a season, but it's not cheesy. It's so like these great houses, and he's from the North and it's cold, and he like has a special connection with wolves. Everything is just screaming the North, Winterfell, House of Stark. Like, if you picture like a Stark man and like a lady from the summer court, I mean, the imagination, it does wonders. It honestly has really made me excited to listen to this book. And also the narrator, she's this British woman, or at least she has a British accent, and the accent is so like, I don't know, it just like really transports you, and it's so just delicious sounding. It makes you want to keep listening. I love it so much. It's definitely a long audiobook, but it is serving up my Game of Thrones fantasies, okay? Like how I wish we could have had certain things develop, okay? I think it really also jump-started when we started watching House of Dragon Season 2. The beginning shows Winterfell, and just like reminds you of Game of Thrones Winterfell and just the Stark family and the nostalgia of that family and those stories. So connecting that with this book has really helped me envision it, and the chemistry is really good, and also the story. Like at every chapter I am like surprised by what happens next. Like everything kind of might seem like it's predictable, but it's not. Like everything is playing out so uniquely, and I'm like, oh, like this is so refreshing to have something where I can't really predict what's going to happen, and it's still like enthralling, and I'm like, what's gonna happen next? So I'm so excited to keep listening to this, and yeah, that is my current audiobook that I am listening to on the go. So the next book that I'm currently reading on my Kindle is Married to a Pirate, and this is technically also like dark romance. I would call it more like smut with pirates. I am barely at the beginning of this book. I think I'm like only a few chapters in, but I like it. Like if you are a Pirates of the Caribbean lover, you're gonna like this. Okay, it's giving what it needs to give. It's good. I have really been craving like a pirate book. I feel like I read them all the time when I was younger. I just grabbed any pirate book that I could when I was younger. So finding something that was more adult and up that alley, I'm excited. So this book is about a young girl who is born in a noble family, and she's supposed to be marrying the prince. I believe it's based in England, but it's like a historical fiction. Like it's not really real history, but it's fiction. And of course, her trying to get married gets interrupted by a handsome and dashing pirate who forces her to marry him, based on like a certain, agreement he has that he has arranged. So basically he kidnaps her and then forces her to marry him, and that's kind of where I've left off because I still need to read the book. But that's the premise. So obviously there's probably a lot of dashing pirate adventures ahead of us and some spicy times. So already it's kind of like enemies to lover, and he's all like grumpy and like whatnot, but like deep down inside you're getting hints of other stuff, and he's very like protective of her, and she's like, I don't know you, why did you take me away? It's hot. So I am having a good time, and I needed like this type of romance in like a different setting other than like supernatural, but still kind of fantasy. So I love that it's like a pirate type book. So Married to a Pirate is the other book that I'm reading on my Kindle. Lots of Kindle books, but I did pick up a lot of physical books that I need to get through. So my goal for the next few months, and the next month really, is to start reading those, and then I'll probably have like 1 or 2 books on my Kindle, and then my audiobook that I listen to whenever else, I get the time to. And honestly, the system of audio and Kindle and physical books, I feel like I've been reading so much more because I have ways to bring books with me kind of in any setting. So, yeah. The last book I'm reading is like so opposite of the vibes right now, but it's People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Finally reading my Emily Henry books. I have like 4 of her books and I haven't read any of them yet. But I did need something that was just like a little different from like the heavy romance, heavy fantasy that I've been locked into and are my favorite genres. I think I just needed a little bit of a different vibe to go along with everything, Kind of like when you have a meal and you want like different sides. So I felt like this was a fun summer read, and I don't really have any like high expectations. Like I'm really going into it with like an open mind, and I'm really loving the writing so far, and The dialogue is a really powerful tool in this book, I can already tell. I don't know that everyone probably feels that way, but I definitely enjoy the writing style so far. I feel like I'm able to kind of get through everything quickly. I don't feel like it's dragging, and I also feel like the characters and the story is interesting enough for me to keep going. So I am so far like a little less than 100 pages in, but I know that if I really sat down, I could probably finish this in like a day. That's just how easy it is to quickly read through this. So yeah, it definitely wasn't like what I thought it would start off as. So it's been kind of nice to like be surprised. It kind of reminds me of when Harry met Sally, that kind of like dynamic between them because they're friends. I assume potentially friends to lovers. I'm kind of keeping it open because I'm not really sure that it's classified to be a romance per se. So I'm not really trying to uphold it to that standard. Just kind of taking it in. And I think I need that after all these like books that I felt like should have really, I don't know, succeeded my expectations, and then they like kind of fell flat. So anyways, those are the 3 books I am kind of dipping between. I feel like this is like my evening book. My Kindle is like when I'm working out, and then my audiobook is like if I'm cleaning or commuting. And that's how I get my reading done. So I hope that this was an interesting update to the latest books that I've been reading. I definitely have read a lot, and yet I feel like I really want to enjoy and slow down. I mean, I feel like I have slowed down significantly, but I'm just taking it book by book and reminding myself to just like sit back and enjoy it and not let other outside factors impact me too much. But yeah, it can be hard, especially with books people hype up a lot. I don't know if I'm gonna have the same reaction and then you don't. It can be tough. But everyone's different, and we're all going through different things, and we all have different seasons, right? So, you know, those are just my experiences, and those were the books that I read, what I'm currently reading. I'm hoping to kind of get back into my book reading journey again, because I feel like it was slowing down, because everything was a little like not that fun to read, or it was just harder to get through books. So I'm hoping to get rejuvenated again to read with these books I'm currently reading, which so far I have been enjoying, so that's a good sign. I hope that you enjoyed this update of all the books. It was a lot of Kindle, but like I said, I'm hoping my next batch of books are mostly the physical books that I've been buying and that I need to read. So I'm pretty set for sure. Anyways, let me know what you're currently reading or a book you really loved. I'm always open, keeping my Goodreads wish list going. If you want, you can follow me on Goodreads. I'll put the link below for you, and we can hang out there, see what we're reading. Thanks so much for watching, and I appreciate your time as always, and I hope to see you